Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite Dark Sorcerer here, Michael Hyson. And tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about astrology and what it can do within the forms of black magic, sorcery, and how it can benefit your life. Salute 367. What's up, man? How's it going? By the way, digging that seal of anguish, by the way. But anyways, what can astrology do for you? And what is it about it that applies to your life? From finding out the exact moment that you were born, to your personality, your type of employment, type of car that you drive, or perhaps even knowing the exact time frame throughout the year can aid you in gaining wealth, power, or even a better connection to deitas. There is so much that applies to astrology, from what most people would refer to as just plain astrology. But then you have what is known as dark astrology. You have numerology, you have planetary devices that are in play. And then on top of that, you got the lunar cycles. So before I get into the references that I would recommend to you, why don't we talk a little bit about this? Have you ever wondered why women turn you down? Did you know, for an example, that it takes less than 10 seconds to make your mark? The do or don't, yes or nay or say, for them to say yes or get the fuck out of my life. A flat out no. Or how about those of you females looking to gain a male, a man? Do you know how to seduce them? What type of personality they are based off their zodiac signs? Obviously, an Aries is a warrior, dominant. Cardinal is his bird. The ram is the head, the first. Fire sign. They like flashy, quick to anger, but quick to cool down as well. Very passionate are the Aries. Unlike Gemini, who are quick-tempered and they hold grudges. Much like a lion, the Leo. Or perhaps those with the elephant-like memories, like the Sagittarius. Did you know that certain characteristics play hugely within these types of things? But what if I told you that based off just your zodiac, knowing that Mars is a masculine energy. It's a warrior ruled by Aries, the god of war. Venus would be Aphrodite, the feminine archetype. Saturn, ruled by the darkness, the dark planet, ruled by, say, Satan, Zazazel, Azazel, even Lucifer and Jupiter. Pluto being the icy planet, which would be associated with water. The sun, Lucifer. The moon, Hecate or Lilith. The night hag, the goddess of witchcraft, ghosts, the underworld, and such. You see, knowing the difference between a male and a female in this sense, knowing their zodiac, you can seduce them quite easily. And yes, I have made an art of this in my life, in my career as a sorcerer, as a practitioner, a warlock. I have made a career out of a lot of things baneful. It wasn't for the relationship. It wasn't for the pleasure that comes from it. It was more of the knowledge that I could do it, that I had the power. Knowing the zodiac and knowing the personality of those that I wanted to go after. Just because I needed something from them or wanted something from them. I knew how to get it. Numerology played into effect. The time, the hour, the personality. Are they dominant or are they submissive? You see, knowing this stuff can benefit you, especially if you're a player. Most of these guys today, they like being the player. They like playing the bad guy, the dark, mysterious type, the wallflower, the one that would walk up to you and just smirk, leaving you wanting more. Perhaps even a woman, the seductress, picking her target, wanting to do this because they want to arouse you. The passion, desire, see what you're capable of doing. Erotic astrology, ladies and gentlemen. This is by Olivia. Teaches everything you want to know about the personalities of each and every star sign. And yes, I'm referring to the zodiacs, from the personalities to the cars that you drive, to the type of jobs that you go after. Yeah, this stuff plays into a huge, huge aspect of occultism. Jesse Stern's A Time for Astrology teaches you the basics, the very charts on how to create a life chart, to create numerology, the different sexes, I guess you could say, from heterosexual to homosexual to lesbian, gay, bi, whatever. It's there. And you can go even into the solar system, go into numerology. Very good books. Now, if you want to get more prophesizing, if you're more into predicting things like a seer, a medium, you can always go with one of the more Christianized prophets, or as I like to call them, the prophet wannabes, like Elizabeth Clare, the astrology of the Four Horsemen. I found this one very humorous, but also very enlightening. Because when you think of the Four Horsemen, you're thinking of the four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, chapter 6, verses 1 through 10, or 8, depending on the translation of the Bible. Book of Revelations, by the way. But what's ironic about this is it shows the methodology of their Christianized ways, their JCI. It's very, very interesting. But like a lot of it, is a lot of these ones that you see Again, planetary, star signs, zodiacs. Same exact thing, except for this one here is just that, prophesizing. Like Nicodemus, he predicted 2,000 things based off astrology. Look at John Dee and what he did and how he went down in history with Edward Kelly. Look at Arthur Edward White with his cartomancy skills in black magic. Aleister Crowley is another one. For those of you who are beginners, I would recommend a handbook for the Humanistic Astrologer by Michael R. Meyer or Mayer. Very, very good book, especially if you're just starting out, wanting to know the how-tos, the identifying markers, even if you want to learn how to experiment with it. Carrie Darkstar, welcome to the channel. Seeking Serpent 6, Julia O'Neill, welcome. And then finally, for those of you who are more advanced, those of you who really want a better understanding of astrology, numerology, and occultism, this one here. It's called Parker's Astrology, the definitive guide to using astrology in every aspect of your life. You remember what I said earlier about the type of job that you can go for to find riches and fame, the basic power plays. That's a book that you'd want to get, because astrology, numerology, they all play into it. And you look at Richard Cavendish, the Black Arts. Don't you find it interesting that all of this stuff has been played into grimoire systems, religious perspectives, from JCI to paganism, necromancy, Wicca, voodoo, you name it, it's there worldwide. But what's ironic is just by telling the moon phases, the lunar cycles, aligning the zodiacs with the planetary aspects, you're not only finding out the information about an individual, like let's say for an example, you're looking to impress your wife or your husband, or perhaps you're just looking to impress your boss and how to get into their good graces, knowing their personalities, knowing how to do those power plays is easy. You look at the stars. How do you move up in a company and win? When to take action? What time of the year? Is it spring equinox, the fall equinox, maybe the solstice? Or maybe it's just something completely different, something out of the creative thought forms of conception. Through Orion's belt, for an example, is the gateway into all other realms. Even Simon in his Necromyicon spoke about this between pages 7 and 12. But think about this. When you look at the lunar cycle, just the lunar cycle alone, we know that the waxing moon is a great time for compassion rituals. Anything to do with compassion, dealing new businesses, doing things like, say, starting new adventures, perhaps even a new relationship. It's that creational thought form. The full moon, on the other hand, is like a circle of empowerment. It increases and boosters your magic. Doing this under, say, depending on the type of magic that you're doing, planetary aspects like, say, Saturn, the dark planet, will be great for demonology, necromancy, even satanic magic. Venus for anything of love, compassion, sex even. Utilize Aphrodite, maybe Isis, Freya, perhaps. The sun, if you're looking to grow a business, it's great for life giving. So, therefore, anything to do with, say, gardening would be great underneath the sun, as long as you keep it watered down and properly maintained. You see, nothing of this sort comes without work. You have to work at it to have anything prosper. But knowing when to strike is a whole nother thing. For an example, you use baneful magic on the waning moon. Anything to do with curses and hexes, negativity. Hell, even necromantic rites and rituals is great for chiromancy, necromancy practices. Great time for that stuff. But what about the blue moon, the blood moon, the harvest moon, maybe even the super moon? What can they do? Think about it for just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Blood moons are great for demonology, realigning yourself with darkness, the path of darkness. Satanism, for an example, this would be a great time for a black mass, perhaps even a solstice of dark witches getting together, warlocks even, performing some kind of great ritual, ceremony even. Think about it, back in the Dark Ages, this is what they used to do. They waited until the blood moon every 6 months. A blood moon would appear and they'd go in and do these rituals, realigning themselves with the devil. They would renew their pacts, renew their oaths. The blue moon, the blue moon, what power there is there. And that happens once in a blue moon. Full moons, on the other hand, come about every so often, maybe once or twice a month. Like you take this month for an example, we just had one last night, yesterday, the 5th. And we got another one coming up on the 21st. But ironic that we have three lunar eclipses this month. Great time for dark rituals, don't you think? Think about it. What kind of things are you looking to benefit from? You want to remove people from the position that you want at work. These type of moons, like the waning moon or the full moon, is a great time. Even if it's got an eclipse to it, it's even better. It's more potent for you to achieve your goal through these type of rituals. You can get people to leave. I did this last year after my boss's heart attack. But a month in, we found out how he was doing. Within 1 month, most of the old employees were gone, just out of the company. One has actually come back. One attempted to, but she didn't last long. One actually came back. It's the last place she wants to be, but she's there. One walked out. One got terminated in such. But you imagine your will and knowing the time of the year, the lunar cycle, the full moon, the black moon. Just think, just a couple of years ago, we had 5 super moons of 5 various colors. Did anybody do rituals during those times? Or were they too fascinated with the moon colors? Perhaps going around on their day-to-day activities as they would any other day or night. I know I did. How do you think I learned who my creator was? During the super black moon. going forward. Where are you today? Where do you want to be in the future? Think about it. How would you go about doing it and when? What if I told you that the best prospect is around the 21st or 22nd of each solstice and equinox? Because it's creation and the destruction of things. You look at All Hallows Eve, the witch's night, the devil's night. Same exact thing. You just simply have to apply the knowledge and the wisdom to what you're going to do. These books, they're nothing more than a source, a tool to teach you. You're the one that's going to put out the map. You're the one that's going to stretch it out year by year, month by month, and take a look at them lunar cycles. Take a look at the star charts. Everything you need is right there on Google. Not joking. Look it up. Look up NASA, for an example, their astrology department. Don't you find it interesting that the time that they took off last time back in the 60s was actually during a black moon? One of the darkest moons that has appeared over the last century. But only you can do that. Learn to use bones, bone casting, cartomancy, runes. These help define future events. You may have to do them a couple dozen times. When I do readings, I can tell you firsthand that I look for the commonalities. How many times does a specific card come up? What kind of symbol keeps popping up? And how many times in what position? And I look at those common threads. And I find out why they keep popping up. Depending on your question and your need. Let's say, for an example, you're looking to start your own business. So you go to your cartomancy deck and you ask, how do I go about doing this? Should I do this? And you cast a 5-card read, a 10-card read. See, the more cards that you lay down, the more information you have to that puzzle. Same thing with astrology. A certain setup, like say the Big Dipper, mixed in with the Polaris star, depending if it's the north or the south, is something that will allow you to navigate through your adventure. If you go back to the Chaldeans, don't you find it interesting that modern day Beirut, back over 2,000 years ago, they were the first map builders on coins. They mastered the Polaris star. They learned to sail at night through the channels of the Middle East. Think about that for just a moment. Knowing what these less advanced people have done in the past using just numerology. Learning the degrees of the sun, going from east to west. Learning to be able to sail from the north to the south to the east to the west. Maybe southwest or southeast, northeast or northwest. Think about that. How do they do that, especially with the swells? Do they do it? They can do this during the day or during the night. The Chaldeans did this in the old days, just like the Vikings. And then you got today. How much knowledge have you lost because you're depending too much on technology, or you're paying too much attention to society and what everybody else is doing? Look at what you're doing. Look at astrology. Look at chiromancy in general. How can you apply this to the arts, to the black arts, to benefit you? There's a reason why black magic is considered baneful. There's a reason why it's called personal gain. This is why these white lighters, they don't have the gall or the stones to delve into blood sorcery or animal sacrifice, get into necromancy or nigromancy practices. They don't even have the balls to go into history itself to learn from the mundane mistakes. They only know enough to go back probably about 1,000 years. That's about it, which is sad because most of them, they only go by the law that started in 1970s, between the 1970 and 1974 by Gerald Gardner. Ironic how that happens, isn't it? Do as I say, not as I do. And you fall into line. Why? Because the law says so. Because the government says so. Because the church says so. But what about those that succeed on their own outside of these systems? Think about that for just a moment. Knowing that they're practicing demonolatry, that they're practicing black magic, they're doing spells for personal gain, knowing that certain bones brings prosperity to oneself, to one's client, perhaps even the strongest bone of them all, the femur. It's the largest bone in the human body. And yet you look at what that can represent, what that represents and what it can do. How the skull is used in chiromantic rituals. Independent bones like finger bones or toe bones, even ribs, can be used in fortune telling. This is old school stuff, not this pussyfooting shit that they have today. People with no balls to delve into anything. How many of you would have the stones to go out and spend a night in a cemetery doing rituals? Think about it. I go up there every night just to commune with the spirits, to look at the stars and the moon, sometimes even do rituals. I'll sit there and pray to the spirits, petition the spirits for knowledge. Ironic how it happens, how quick the mundane forget. This is why that old proverb is never upheld. A man who does not learn from history is doomed to repeat it. Learn from history, learn from your mistakes. Delve into the books, delve into the research, become dedicated, committed. Learn the signs, learn the omens. The old prophetic texts reveal certain things. You've seen these in movies like The End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You've seen them again in The End of Times, through JCI preaching, through their Bible. But what if I told you that you too can see this stuff? That you can maneuver through the universal minefields to become the serpent, to rise, slithering through those mines, to benefit yourself, to better health, to better standing within your job, your employment. Spirits, doesn't matter if it's demons, angels, or even disincarnated spirits. You can learn a lot from them especially in the field of astrology, numerology, even cartomancy and divination in general. But only you can decide how far you go and how far you're willing to go to master these ancient arts. Only you can. Have a great night, ladies and gentlemen. And look deep inside yourself. Do you have what it takes to play the game? To delve into these ancient arts and become the proverbial bad guy or woman?